Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And as we are coming into the cooler months, I thought we would do something a little bit with some beads that are a little bit heavier. I've got these lovely stone beads that I've been wanting to use for a little while, and I wanted to make something that's really pretty but not too heavy, and that will go with just about anything. So I've got some relatively neutral shade stone beads that I'm pairing, well, adding to or using with some neutral shade wood rondelles and some dyed coconut shells, different colors of coconut shells, and paper beads from Ghana. So I thought we would put these together, and I'm calling it All Natural Elegance because it's all natural. We've got wood, we've got paper, we've got, well, which is wood? We've got wood, we've got paper, we've got coconut shells, and we have stone. We're putting them all together, and this is more of a design piece because we're just going to do a nice wrapped loop and link everything together. We're going to be using 22 gauge wire. Nothing special. You can do this with anything. You don't have to use the same kinds of beads that I'm using, but those of you who get kits, that's what you will get in your kits. Now, one of the biggest things is going to be about measurement in regard to how much wire you need to finish your piece, et cetera, et cetera. People always say, oh, we didn't need math. We don't need math for this. Yes, you do, because you need to know how much wire you need to buy, and you need to know in order to make your necklace the length that you want so that you don't either come away with way too much or have to go back because you didn't have enough, which is awful. So what we're going to do, we're going to be using these wood and coconut rondelles that are hand, well, maybe they're not hand drilled. A lot of what I'm using is hand drilled because I've got these paper beads that are hand rolled from Ghana, and they're the drill points, the holes are not going to be all the same size. Some of them are very large or larger than you would find a usual bead that has maybe a half to a 1 millimeter drilled hole. These holes are a little bit bigger. So you need to have enough wire to to secure your bead into place. And what I have determined from what I'm using, the 22 gauge wire, is that I need 1¼ inches on each side of my bead in order to make my loop and make my wrap. And so that's 2½ inches plus whatever the length of your bead or the stacks of the beads that you make are. Because I'm using different lengths of beads, I've got paper beads, they're all different lengths. Go that way. Yeah, they're all different lengths. And then I'm going to be doing some stacks and I'm doing some stone, and none of them are the same length. So you need to know how much you need for each of your lengths. For example, if I'm doing 18 links that each bead or stack of beads is about 1 inch long, and I need another 2½ for my wrapping, that's 3½ inches. So 3½ inches times 18 is about, if I'm not mistaken, 60. I should have done this in my head, but it comes to about 1¼ yards. Add that to the fact that we're going to also be making a beaded clasp, hook and loop. That's going to take you up to about 2 yards. So you're going to need about 2 yards of wire. You can either cut each of your links off according to the measurements, or you can leave them all intact and just work from the spool. But you need a pretty good idea of how much you need so that you know how much to purchase so that you can make your piece. Okay, so that's enough of that. You're going to need round nose pliers. They're round all the way around the barrel. They start a little wider at the bottom, which is the hilt, and they taper up to the tip a little bit smaller. You're going to use square pliers or square nose pliers, which are slightly rounded on the outside, but they're flat on the inside. That helps you make a square shape, or use it to push down your wire when you need to after you've finished wrapping. If you buy these in the store or online, make sure they don't have those ridges or grips on the inside, and that this inside is nice and smooth. Otherwise, you will end up tearing up your wire or damaging your wire, which you don't want to do. The third tool that you'll need is a pair of clippers. And that we're just using this to cut the wire. So whatever wire cutters you get is fine. Finally, we're going to use a ruler to measure everything out. Again, you can work from your spool, or you can measure each length of wire that you need. Your choice completely. So let's get down here and get started, because I am excited to see this all finished. Just a second. Okay, I'm going to start with my stone bead. Isn't that pretty? Yes. So I have already measured this. This is about an inch. Yeah, that's about an inch. I need a total of 2.5 inches to make my wraps, which comes to 1.25 inches on each side in order to make my wraps. And this is what I was talking about. These wooden beads, look at the hole size. They're really big in comparison. And this is a little bigger than usual. This is bigger. Let's see if I can find a bead floating around here that I can show you what kind of a smaller hole sizes. So there's one. Oh, you can't really see it because, okay, there. I think you can see that one. So there's that, and there's that. Look at the difference. So you want to make sure that you have enough so that when you make your wrap, it will fill in the hole size there, like that. Ooh, that's blurry. There we go. That's better. So you want to be able to fill in that drill point there. Now, you won't need to do that with everything. If you have a bead that has a smaller hole, then you won't need that much. But for our purposes today, I am suggesting that you give yourself about 3.5 inches per link, depending on your bead. If your bead is smaller, you need a little less. If your bead is bigger, you need a little more. If you're stacking beads like this and it's longer, you'll need more. This is about 3/4 of an inch, so I don't need as much, but I'm safe with my 3.5. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to work from the hole spool. So I'm going to measure approximately 1.25 inches from the tip, and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm going to bend my wire off to the side. Let's get this out of your way. You don't need to look at all of that. So I'm going to bend it off to the side, and I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to slide the wire down my pliers about 1/4 of the way, 1/4 of a distance from the tip. So if I were to count this would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So that's what I've determined is the size loop that I want for my wrap. Now, sometimes I see people, see how this is setting? I have the long strand going straight down, and I have the short strand going out to the side. Sometimes I see people putting their pliers in this corner like this, and that's not what I want. You want to make sure it's short to the side, long straight down. And then I'm going to take that short tail, bring it over the top of my pliers and down the side until it's running parallel to the long strand. And then without shifting my wire, I'm going to hold my wire, open my pliers, and reposition them out to the side so that they're not in my way. And then I'm going to bring that short tail of wire under the pliers and out to the side, like so that I have a loop. So there's my loop. And I'm ready to wrap it. Nice. So what I'm going to do now is, this is my bead. I need that inch. Then I need another 1.25 inches on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off because that would be 1, 2.25 inches. You can measure that. That's why I said we need a ruler. Give yourself your 2.25 inches. Cut that off. Okay. And now I'm ready to roll. Go ahead and put my bead on. I'm not going to wrap this side yet because I need to attach it to my next link. All right, bend my wire back, slide my wire in between the jaws of my pliers down to that 1/4 of the way mark. Bring that wire over the top and down the side until it can't go any further because that bead's in the way. Then I'm going to hold on to the bead and the wire, open my pliers and reposition them, and then bring that wire under the pliers, between the pliers and the bead until I have a loop. And now I have a lot of space in here that I probably don't want. There's a little bit, let's see if I can make that very visible. There's a little bit of a neck down in here. And that's not bad. It's not too bad. It's not too much. But if I want to get rid of that, all I need to do is roll my loop down closer to the bead. There we go. So now I'm going to put this to the side because I don't want to close it up yet because I need to link it to the next group of beads. Now this is what I was talking about, stacking my beads. I'm going to take 4 of these wooden rondelles and I'm going to add one of these really cute, look at this, so tiny, this cute little rolled paper bead that comes from Ghana. It's a gorgeous color. And I'm going to put them together on one length of wire. Okay, so I'm going to grab my wire, and how do I know how much to use? I can put this on my wire because it's kind of hard to measure it like this because they may or may not stand up. Well, they're doing it. Would you look at that? They're playing nice for the camera. Okay, so then I can measure them. There we go. About 3/4 of an inch, a little more than 3/4 of an inch. So we'll just say, we'll just use the same amount that I used for this bead, which was 3.5 inches. It's about 1/4 of an inch more, but that's okay. Okay, somebody's texting me and it popped up on my screen. I hope you can't see that. All right, so what I'm going to do is give myself, again, 3.5 inches. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my beads on. Let's put them on there. And just let them slide down out of my way, all the way down this wire. And then I'm going to give myself my 1.25 inch bend. Again, I'm just eyeballing it. I didn't measure. I probably should just for your benefit, but you measure, I eyeball. I'm going to slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way down my pliers again. Bring that wire over the top of my pliers and down the side until it's running parallel with the rest of the wire. Then I'm going to reposition my pliers and bring that tail under my pliers and across like so. Now I should have a nice little loop. There it is. Now, if your loop, this is a good example. If your loop is leaning to one side, which this is, and you can see that it's not exactly in the center of this wire, all you have to do is go in and rotate the loop until it's in the center. A little tiny bit more. There we go. And now it's in the center. And I have my little guy with the face and his scarf blowing in the wind. People are sick of hearing me say that. I say that a lot. But that's what it looks like to me. Little guy with the face, scarf blowing in the wind. All right. So now what I'm going to do is go down here, measure again or eyeball it. I'm going to go ahead and bend this off to the side. And hold on to your beads when you're bending this. I see some people get a little rambunctious and they end up bending the wire in the middle. I don't care what gauge it is. They get a little overzealous and then they end up with a little bent stack here. It's adjustable again, but in order to avoid that, just hold on to your beads when you're bending. And then that way you don't have to worry about it. So now I just need to make my loop. I need about 1/4 of an inch for my loop. So I'm going to go ahead and go out here to the side and cut that off. So now I have plenty for my loop and my wrap. I'm going to go here to the other side, grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire down about 1/4 of an inch from the, or 1/4 of the way down the pliers. Bring that wire over the top and down the side of my beads. Hold on to my beads and my wire, reposition my pliers, and bring that wire under the pliers and between the pliers and the bead to make a loop. There we go. Now I have my other little guy on the other side with the scarf blowing in the wind. And we're going to link these two together. So what I need to do is wrap either one of these or one of these. It doesn't matter. One or the other needs to be wrapped so that I can have a wrapped bead or a wrapped loop to house my unwrapped loop. So I'm going to go ahead and hold on to my loop. And I like to hold it with the square pliers when there's nothing in my way, because if you use your round pliers, and I have people say this all the time, I use my round pliers, and what happens is you put little dips in the wire unless you go all the way back to where there's no way you can put dips in it because it's holding the entire loop. So you can either use your square pliers that are flat and won't put any dips in it, or go all the way to the back of your round pliers. And then you don't have to squeeze so hard. This is 22 gauge. It's very malleable and very soft. So all you're doing is holding with this hand and then wrapping with this one. Okay. And I really like using the flat pliers because it doesn't move as much. I think you have more control than you do with the round ones. So now I'm wrapping this wire around itself on top of the bead. I'm not pulling, I'm just guiding it around until I have a nice little cap on top here that's going to cover that hole that's on the top. Okay, and just push that around. There we go. I'm going to turn it, push it around a little bit more. And I like to see where it's going. So I'll just do a short wrap, half wrap, and turn, and another half wrap and turn, and just keep going that way until I can't do it anymore because it's too short for my fingers. Now I have achieved my purpose. I've got my wrap. I've covered up the little hole. I could cut this off or I could keep going. That's your preference. As long as it's not extending out beyond my bead, I'm fine. I'm going to go ahead and use up the rest of this wire. It's only about 1/4 of an inch. May as well use it. So I'm going to go ahead and push the rest of that wire down against the other wraps. Okay. Make sure it's nice and snug, not sticking up or out where it can snag my clothes or stick me. Okay. There we go. Nice little wrap. Now I'm going to attach it to my stone bead. I'm just going to slide my open bead into my wrapped bead. In order to do that, I just slide that tail of wire inside the closed loop, slide it all the way down that tail, and interlock it to the loop that's open. Then I'm going to grab my round pliers. And the only reason I'm using the round pliers now is because this is a very small space. I would have a hard time getting these pliers in. So I'm going to go ahead and use my round pliers, slide them in there, and wrap my loop. Just wrap that around. Again, you don't have to pull tight. You're just giving it a nice little wrap.
Hi there. It's currently 2.
Sorry, that's my alarm saying you have this much time left because I can talk your ear off, as you all know. Okay, let's turn that around where I can see the tail and give it another wrap. And oh, look, I have a little bit of space in there. Do I want that space in there? Yeah, see, there's a space. I really don't want a space in there. So I'm going to unwrap that just a tiny bit so that I can get rid of that little space. I didn't wrap it tight enough. So I'm going to open it up just a bit. Then I'm going to take my square pliers and I'm going to squeeze that space out of there. There we go. Squeeze the little wraps together. There. That's better. A little tighter wrap. And that looks like enough for this top of the top of my stone bead, because it's pretty narrow up here. I don't need too much wire. So I'm going to go ahead and clip off that little end that I don't need. Get rid of that excess. I almost said access, I don't know why. Get rid of the excess of wire and then push down that little tip so that it's resting against the other wraps and not sticking out where it can catch on anything. There we go. So I've got my first little attachment. Okay. So now all I need to do is attach this to this that I've already wrapped. So let's put those two together. Take this closed loop, slide it down the wire that's open and leading to the open loop, and just encase it inside that open loop, just like so, and grab your round nose pliers and wrap it closed. And again, large hole. So I'm wrapping the wire around itself in order to close up that little hole and make a little cap on top. Wrap that around, turn, and wrap it some more. And when I get to where it's too short for me to do it with my fingers, I can either cut it off at this point, or I can use my pliers to go the rest of the way around. Let's use the pliers. I think I can use the rest of this wire without having to cut off that tiny little bit. So I'm just going to push that down, that little outside wrap against the rest of the wires. There we go. Nice and snug. Yes, there we go. You can see that. Nice. So now I have a nice row of links. And let's add that to the rest of my chain. Yay. All right, so let's take this bead and slide that closed loop down that nice length of wire and drop it down into that open loop. Get in there. It's like, I don't want to go in there. You have to. You're part of the pattern. Get in there. It is really not wanting to go. There. Gotcha. All captured. Okay, now I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. And wrap it closed. There we go. Keep an eye on it. Make sure it's wrapping the way I want. You give it a little half wrap and turn, half wrap and turn. Got a little space there. Let's take care of that real quick, like squeeze this little wraps a little tighter together. There we go. I think one more little half wrap and I should have it. Nice. Is that enough? Do I want another one? I think that's good. Very good. Okay, so let's clip off that tip. Here we go. And a little bit of wire left over. Oh, well, not enough to do anything with. Okay, there's my little end. I'm going to push it snugly down against the other wraps. Don't want anything sticking out. Come on. Get down there. There we go. And there we have it. Let's take a look at what we have. Get all these little pieces of wire out of the way. You can go over here and let's show everybody what we've got. And I love it. There we have it. Trying to get it in the camera here. Come on. Up we go. There we go. There it is. So this is my design. You do not have to design it like this. You will all get some paper beads who get kits. You'll all get some of these wooden rondelles. You'll all get some of these coconut shell. That's what these burgundy things are that I have in here. Those are coconut rondelles. You'll get different sizes of paper beads that you can use them to design your piece any way you want. I wanted to show you how to do the wraps and show you how to do the links, and then you poof, create your own design. And I am begging you for pictures because I really, really want to see what you do with what you get. in your kits. That's always exciting to me. I don't get that in my class. I mean, I don't get that on the tutorials. I get it in my classes, instant gratification, and I really miss that when in the tutorials because I don't get to see what comes out of what you make unless you send me a picture. And thank you to those of you who do. But let's move on because we're going to make our own hand beaded clasp to go with this to continue the flow of our beautiful necklace. So let's just put this over here to the side for the moment and let's grab a couple of paper beads to make our clasp. Yes, so let's start with the loop part of our clasp. I'm doing something a little bit different because this is 22 gauge wire. We usually use 20 gauge wire, and I wanted to do something that would make this a lighter piece, even though it's heavier looking. I didn't want it to weigh too much. So what I'm going to do is get 5 inches of wire for the loop part of my clasp here. Okay, there we go. Then I'm going to bend my wire in half. So I'm going to bring the ends here down to meet. Just meet those tips. And then squeeze the folded end together. I want those sides side by side, not overlapping. All right, squeeze it together as much as you can with your fingers. And when you can't squeeze it with your fingers anymore, grab your square pliers and squeeze those sides together. There we go. Here we go. Okay, straighten that out. So there we have that. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is measure about 1 inch. And now this depends on the size of the bead that you use. If I use a smaller bead, I wouldn't need 5 inches, but I need 5 inches because I'm going to be doing loops on each side of this. One side is going to have a larger loop than the other because it's going to be where the hook of the other side of my clasp goes in. So this side with the two open ends is going to be a smaller loop, about the same size loop that we've used for the other links. So what I need for that is going to be, again, about 1¼ inches from the tip. So get myself my 1¼ keeping those ends side, these two ends side by side. You don't want them overlapping. I'm going to bend my wire back. So there they are side by side, and I bend that back. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way down my pliers, again, keeping them side by side, no overlapping or crossing over. Bring those two tails over the top of my pliers and down the side until they're running parallel with the other wires. Hold on to the wires, open my pliers up, reposition them, and then bring those two wires under the pliers and out to the side like so. So now he really has a scarf flying in the wind. Okay, slide that back in. Make sure that these two loops are again side by side and not crossing over. And then I'm going to bring those wires around, wrap them around the long stem. one full time around. Now, if you want to go around more than one time, that's entirely up to you, but you need at least one wrap, probably one and a half wouldn't hurt, just to close up my loop, just like that. Then I'm going to clip off the tail. Now I like the end to be rest in the middle of my loop. So I want to clip that tail. If it's off to the side like that, it's hard to push it down and it's easier for it to catch and snag on things. So I like to cut it off right here in the middle of my loop. Snip that off, get rid of these little ends, and push down that tail. Where are my flat pliers? There they are. As a matter of fact, I can cut it a little bit closer, a little bit more. I'm right in the middle of my loop. And this is too short for me to catch. So I'm going to grab a little spool and cut it down in there. Boom. So there are those little teeny tiny pieces. Go away. All right, now I'm going to push down those little tips. Here we go. Nice and snug there. There. Now I'm going to grab the bead that I'm going to use, and that's this nice bright sunny yellow one, and I'm going to slide it on. Now, one of the reasons I can do this is because these holes are so much bigger. You want to make sure that whatever bead you use, if you're using something other than something that's got a large hole in it, make sure it's big enough to accommodate a double strand of wire. This is hand drilled, and you can see big hole on one side, pretty big hole on the other side. But this is why I said that it's nice to have something that's hand drilled, but you have to work with it individually. Okay, so I've got my bead on there. Here we go. I'm going to go down to the other end and see how this is a little askew. My little loop is a little askew, so I can go back in with my pliers and straighten that out. Here we go. Yes. Nice. There we go. So I'm going to go down here to the other side, grab my pliers, and this time I'm going to slide my wire almost to the very back. But first, I'm going to bend my wire. Here are my two sides, side by side. I'm going to bend it back. Then I'm going to slide my wire almost to the back because I need a larger opening for my hook to go through. So I'm going to go here about 3/4 of the way back. Where is it? There we go. About 3/4 of the way back to my to the back of my pliers. Bring those two wires over the top and down the side like so. Now I'm going to hold on to my bead and my wire and open my pliers, reposition them, and bring the wire the rest of the way under between the pliers and the bead. So I have my loop. Yay. Then I'm going to continue to wrap and see how this wants to move. In order to avoid that, you can do one of two things. You can either switch to your square pliers, don't squeeze too hard, or these will collapse and cross over each other. You can either use those or you can use these and hold this part down so that it doesn't lift up. Whichever works for you is fine. You just want to make sure that this loop doesn't shift. There we go. Wrap that around as many times as you would like. you should get at least one full wrap. And the best part about having this folded edge is that it's not sharp and it won't catch on anything. Okay, so it's too short for me to keep pushing around with my fingers, so I'll continue push it around with my pliers the rest of the way. And then just lay that down against the rest of the wraps. And there's the loop side of my clasp. Yay! If I need to, I'll go in. This is a little overlapping here and straighten out my loops. Now these will work harden over time and these loops will stay into place, but right now it's still very malleable, so don't let that bother you too much. Here we go. One half of my clasp all done. And now I need to make my hook. Now, the size of your hook depends on how big you want it to be. I need 5 inches, 5 inches of wire to make my hook because I only want it to end up being about an inch long. And by the time I do all folding and the wrapping, etc., that's what it will take to make it. So give myself 5 inches, 5 inches, and okay, let's start with the loop. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom and I'm going to be making a double loop so that 1 1/4 won't be quite enough. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself 1 3/4 inches of wire. So I can do a double loop with a wrap. There we go, 1 3/4. Oh, I'm trying to cut it. No, no cutting. Okay, just bending. I lost my measurement. 1 1 3/4 of an inch. There we go. Bend my wire back, grab my pliers, and again, I'm going to go 1/4 of the way down my pliers. Bring that short tail over the top and down the side until it's running parallel with the other wire. Hold on to my wire, open my pliers up, reposition, clamp back down, and bring that wire the rest of the way under my pliers. Now, because I'm making a double loop, I need to keep going. So I'm going to take my pliers out, bring it around to the other side, and make a second loop. Now, the reason I turn it around is because your pliers get gradually smaller. If I were to make this second loop, continue this second loop over here, it would be smaller than the loop I just made. So I'm going to turn it around, slide my pliers inside the loop with one of the prongs. The other one is under the wrap part. And I'm going to continue wrapping that wire around until it's parallel with the other wire. Then hold on to both of them. You can see where this is separating a little bit. I can squeeze that together later. Reposition my pliers and bring that wire under and across my other wire, like so. So again, it's like a little guy with a scarf running out to the side. Correct it so that it's right in the middle of the long strand. Let's move his little scarf down out to the side. There we go. Check my little loops, make sure that they're parallel. Looks a little askew, as I like to say. Let's correct that. Make sure they're together. Here we go. All right, and now I'm ready to wrap that around this stem. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my square pliers, hold these together, but don't squeeze tight because you don't want them to overlap or collapse. So let's hold on to that just for the sake of security and wrap that tail around that stem. One time. Let's give it one wrap so that now it's secure. And if I need to make any corrections, I can do that. Let's go back in. There we go. Nice. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my bead on. Now that this is nicely secure, I can wrap that after I finish the other side. So what I want to do on this side is I'm going to give myself 1.25 inches. Again, it depends on how big you want your shepherd's hook to be. I'm going with 1.25 inches because I don't want the hook part to be more than 1/2 inch. So let's give myself 1.25 inches. There we go. And when I say 1.25 inches, I mean 1.25 inches from the top of the bead. Okay, so there's my 1/4 inch mark. Here's my inch there. And just bend the wire at that point. Just fold it in half, just like that. And then I'm going to squeeze the top folded part until both of the wires are as close together as I can get them. And if I can't squeeze it all the way with my fingers, I will switch to my pliers. And just do this in small increments because if you don't, the wires are going to cross over. So just be very careful with your squeezing. There we go. So now I'm going to go down here to the bottom. Oof, I have a lot of wire left. That's great because I can do great things with that. I'm going to go ahead and go up here about 1/4 inch away from the bead. Hold on to that with my pliers here. Make sure that my two ends are side by side. 1/4 inch away. I'm going to go this way because this is going to get in my way if I don't. 1/4 inch away from the top of my bead. And I'm going to bend my wire up. Ignore that. Bend my wire up towards my pliers. So this is what I have now. Okay, and now I'm ready to wrap this long tail around the stem that's right above my bead. And I'm going to tell you a little trick. First of all, make sure these are as close together as you can get them and slide that wire almost to the back of your pliers because you get a better grip there. If you try to do it from the tip, it's going to move around like that. But if you go back here to the back, it's more secure. See that? All right, so right here above the fold of my wire, just hold on to that and wrap the tail around the stem. First wrap as close as I can get to the pliers, and then keep on wrapping down that stem. Just keep wrapping nice and close. There we go. Down to the bottom there, and right at the top of my bead. There we go. So now you have a choice. You can either stop here, cut off your wire, or keep going if you want to. And again, this has got a little bit of the hole that's showing, and I want to cover that up. So I'm going to continue to wrap. And I'm going to make a little cap. Not only that, I have a good 1.25 inches of wire left that I don't want to waste. So I'm going to keep wrapping. Let's move that out of my way. I'm going to keep wrapping around the top of my bead and give myself a little cap. So I'm going to turn that around so I can see where it's going. Give it another little half wrap. There. Turn it around. Another half wrap. Okay. And turn it. Another half wrap. And you can keep going with this again as long as you want or stop anytime. And another half wrap. Okay, and turn. And I think that will do it. Very nice. Let's clip that tip. Push down that little tip into the other wraps. Here we go, nice, neat, and tidy. And then we're going to go right up here. Well, let's go ahead and go to the other side and finish wrapping that. So I'm going to wrap that around so that I have a little cap on the other side as well. Wouldn't that be cute? There we go. Half turn and a half wrap. Half turn, half wrap. And when I can't go any further, use my pliers to finish it off. Push that little end down against the other wraps. Nothing sticking out here. Nice. There we go. And now let's make our hook. Yes. So I'm going to go right here at the top of my wrap here. And I'm going to bend my wire back. So here are the two sides of my wire. Side by side. I'm going to bend that wire back just like so. And then I'm going to go to the top, right there at the folded tip, grab my round nose pliers, and right on the tip, use the tip of my pliers at the tip of my wire, and I'm going to give it a little tweak back in the same direction that I just made this bend. So I'm going to bend that back. So now this is what I have. Interesting, huh? And so I'm going to go down about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch away from where I just bent this. This is bent back this way. I'm going to slide this all the way to the back of my pliers, about 1/4 of the distance away from my little bend. And I'm going to give it a 1/4 turn. Just a 1/4 turn. Holding on to my bead, I'm going to open up my pliers, rotate back to where it's curved, clamp back down, give it another 1/4 turn, open, clamp back down, another 1/4 turn, open, and just keep doing that until the tip meets the wrap. And there is my shepherd's hook. And you can adjust it a little bit if you want. But there's my hook. Isn't that neat? And now let's put it together with my loop and the rest of my necklace. See how that works? Nice. Okay, let's attach everything. All right. Sorry, knock on the door. What can I say? Okay, so we're going to attach the hook on one side and the loop on the other side. So again, I'm just going to go down here to the long tail of wire, slip that closed ring down the tail and into the open loop, like so. Grab my round nose pliers, slide them inside my loop, or not inside my loop, slide them beside the loop, hold on to it, and wrap my loop closed. Right there in between the pliers and the bead. Here we go. I've got enough of a wrap there to cover up the hole. And now I'm just going to continue because I still have wire and I can put a little cap on top of my bead with that excess wire. Because why not? It's pretty. Okay. Ah, nice. Let's see if we can get up here where you can see it. Yeah, very nice. Let's clip that tail off. Do I want to do another wrap? I hate wasting this, and that's just going to get thrown out. I may as well go ahead and make another little wrap around just because I can. Hey. Snip that off. And push that under. There we go. Nice and neat. Let's go to the other side and put our hook on. Now remember you're attaching the small loop, not the big loop. Big loop is where the hook goes through. So slide that small loop down and inside the open loop. Here we go. Grab my round nose pliers and wrap. Wrappity wrap, wrap, wrap. Been doing a lot of wrapping. That's basically what this whole piece is about. Linking your pieces together. The rest of it is all about design. What do we do with a lot of different beads? We're going to be doing more of that. More design challenges. So I think it gets a little boring if I give everybody the same thing and then, no, what fun is that? Okay, nice little cap on top. I think I'll make it a little bit bigger, like the other side. This is very free form, so you can make the cap as big or as small as you want. There we go. That's just lovely. Clip off that little tail. Boop. Get rid of that. Push down that little tip. Nice. And let's see what we had. Oops, what did I knock on the floor? Oh, nothing. Okay, let's see what we have. All these little pieces of wire. Let's take a look. at our masterpiece. Ah, it's a thing of beauty. Isn't that lovely? Natural elegance. That's what I'm calling it. Natural elegance. And we have our nice beaded clasp. And see how it doesn't. I remember I gave my sister something and it had a beaded clasp on it. And she said, fasten this. She couldn't find the clasp because it just disappears inside of the design of your piece, which is one of the things I love more than anything. I love to have a piece that doesn't have a break. It just looks like it keeps on going around. And it can't possibly, because otherwise, how do you get it on? Now, this is long enough, so I think I can pop it over my head, but I don't have hair to get in the way. So that makes it easy for me. But this is just beautiful. I'm going to put it on a display and show you what we've got. There it is. There's our piece for the day. I really should put this on. This is really gorgeous. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed those of you who get it. I hope you enjoy making this. Those of you who don't get kits, this is very, very free form and design appropriate. Or what can I call it? It just depends on what you want to do. It really does. These kits are not all going to have the same colors of beads, particularly the paper beads. They're all hand rolled, and even the shapes of the stone beads are going to be different. The only thing that's going to be consistent are the little rondelles, and they're going to be different colors. So none of this is going to be the same. You can use your own design aesthetic. You can put them the way together any way you want. You can stack the beads any way you want. Okay, I'm almost finished. Stop. My clock is saying, be quiet now. It's over. Okay, so you can design this any way you want. There's our beautiful little clasp on the back. You could even put that down in the front, and I think it would still be pretty. But you can design this any way you want, and I would love to see what you do. So please feel free to get in touch with me at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. You can leave comments and pictures. You can send comments and pictures there. You can also leave comments and pictures at the library Facebook page, which is facebook.com/DeKalb library. That's facebook.com/DEKALB or you can leave comments on the library YouTube page, which is youtube.com/DeKalb library. I'd love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you like, what you didn't like, what you might want to see later. One way or the other, please get in touch. I would love it. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you'll come back again. Until then, have a great week, have a great weekend, and I'll see you later.